Hello YouTube. Hope you're all doing well. Today I'd like to cover taking apart a typical lock back and cleaning it and putting it back together and also tuning it up. Now what brought this about is a gentleman on one of the Facebook pages had said he wanted another folder because his particular one was too rough, and I asked him if he'd tried tuning it, and he said no, that hadn't occurred to him. And I said, well, I'll do a quick video and just go over some of the things that you can check. So I'm going to use my Rockstead. This is in use, has been for 4 years. The anodizing's starting to wear off. The blade is not got that beautiful, well, sort of does. It's got a lot of oil on it right now, but it doesn't have that beautiful mirror polish because I use it all the time. So anyway, we will dissect it and we will use it as our guinea pig because I can show you everything on this one. To take it apart, excuse me, you'll need a set of Torx. You can buy these at any hardware store, Home Depot, Lowe's, Ace Hardware, or whatever, Tesco, depending on what land you're in. And there are different styles. None of them are very expensive. What I really like is this set right here. You get 6 of them, and they're made in Germany. That's WIHA, and you can look these up on Amazon or YouTube. The whole set, even though they're extremely well made, they're not expensive. I think I gave $17 for that set, and believe me, it's worth spending the money if you're going to collect knives or have very many of them. They really make a difference. So let's find the correct one for our Torx bits. And that appears to be it. We'll move those to the side. And we'll pull our screws out. And I like to have a dish of some sort to put them in so that they don't go everywhere, especially the washers. Once they do, it can be almost impossible sometimes to find them. So we're going to pull those apart and we'll separate. And now I like to look at everything before I do anything else. I want to look at this. And I took one apart the other day, and it didn't have just one washer on each side. It actually has a phosphor bronze, and underneath it, it had a Teflon washer. And I assume they're using that to make up for some spacing, but just be aware that you could have one bushing in there. You may have 2. You can also have captive ball bearings in a caged roller or ball bearing configuration, as they call it. You can also have loose ball bearings. So be really careful. Do this on an area where stuff's not going to get away from you when you take it apart. And then we're going to pull this apart. And on this knife, I know, for instance, I have to be aware that there's a bushing there. Big hole, bushing, shaft. So we're going to take the oil is holding our washers on. We'll just take those off, put them in our cup so we don't lose them. We'll do the same with our bushing. Now we can start inspecting everything. We'll clean it first, and you can use some WD-40 PB Blaster on a rag, on a paper towel. You can use just about anything that, you can use rubbing alcohol, you can use mineral spirits. So you guys pretty much know what to use on that. Clean the pivot screw off, Clean everything else off. And now let's start doing some inspecting. And what we're looking for is any burrs that might be on any of this. And just feel with your fingers, visually inspect it. You can clean the inside of the holes with a Q-tip and make sure there's nothing in there. So this hole's obviously being a rock stud. This is nicely chamfered. We make sure everything's clean everywhere. Same here, we're going to inspect our pivot pin and feel it. There's no burrs, nothing on it. The other side, same deal. Make sure we've got nothing on there. And there was a little crud we need to get out of there right here. All right. And we've got rid of that. We're going to do the same thing with our bushing and our center bushing and our flat washers here. That can be, as I said, phosphor bronze. It can be all kinds of stuff. If you should feel one on here, you can take an extremely smooth, I like a smooth ceramic stone. You could use the white sharp maker stone. You can use the Falconivan, this synthetic sapphire side, and just turn it on there and give it a few strokes to clean the burr off. Now, don't try to polish this and hone it down super smooth. You'll change the diameter of that, the thickness, and when you do, you can introduce slop into your knife. But if you feel a burr or anything on the bushing, if it's got one, believe me, it doesn't take much. That's where people make mistakes when they're tuning a gun. They'll polish and reshape parts when all they should have done was about 4 strokes on a stone, and that's all it takes. Same thing with knives. Don't overdo it. Just remove the burrs so that everything will fit flush. If everything fits flush, then you're good to go. Alright, we've got it clean. We removed all the burrs, so now we're going to reassemble. This is my favorite lube of choice. It's Lucas Extreme Duty Gun Oil. I found it in a auto parts store, and that bottle will probably last me my lifetime right there. That goes a long way, and that leads me up to my next point as we start to reassemble. You don't need to hose this thing down with oil. All that will actually work is a thin film that's going to adhere to the metal. So once you've got that, that's all you need. So we're going to put a drop right there, and we're just going to spread that around on this surface. We're going to put a drop on the pivot pin. And then in this case, remember I have this bushing, so we're going to put a drop in the bushing and put that on. Then we'll take our first washer and we'll put just a hair on that back side. We'll flip it over, put a little more on there, and spread that around and put it over our bushing and make sure that the bushing in it are flush. One gotcha here is if you were to put the washer on first and then the bushing, the washer could catch underneath the bushing and your knife wouldn't go together right, and you'd wonder why your blade was cocked off to the side. And again, just a drop here in our blade pivot, and that will work itself around just fine. Put it down. Then we're going to inspect, and that should be standing just proud enough to put this washer on, and it is. Again, a drop, spread it around, a drop, spread it around, and install. Make sure that it fit down over that. And now we'll put our far side plate on. Now, for our screws, I prefer Loctite 222, which is purple Loctite. Some people say they don't think it holds good enough. It is designed for these little tiny screws. You do not need heat to remove it. It will hold just fine. If it's not quite doing what you want, put a little more on. You don't have to worry about it with this stuff. Also, shake it up when you put it on. Make sure you have everything moved around in there really good and mixed together. With red Loctite is heat activated to remove, meaning that it is made not to move without heat. 325, 350 degrees, somewhere around there. Never use red Loctite on a knife. Blue Loctite, it's supposed to come off. They don't specifically say that you need heat for it, but in my experience, if you use very much of it, you'll have to use heat. I would just much rather use this and not worry about it. The screws stay in just fine. I've never had any trouble with it. So we will take our pivot screw and we'll put a drop on there and install. And you can see a lot of that came out. I'm not worried about it because it's purple Loctite. It is not going to overhold. And we will do the same with our back screw. I'm messy today, folks. But you get the idea. I'm sure you will be much more careful. You will do a much cleaner job. Now, how tight do you want these? Well, remember, these are tiny, small screws. There's not that much to them. And just a little, nice and snug. Now on the pivot screw, I like to tighten it down good and then back it off and start feeling, where do I want that? How much play do I want in that? And once I get it, check for side to side, play with it open. And believe me, just the tiniest little bit of movement on this screw, there it is, right there. That's where I want that. And we are done. Check. Make sure we still have our blade centered up, which we do. Make sure our action works the way you want it to. I prefer mine just a hair tight. And clean it up, and you are done. And hopefully it'll work smoother than it did. And again, with this oil, I find that the longer you leave it on there and the more you work it in, the better it seems to work. Just one of those things, I guess, a little Teflon or whatever they put in it, the little molly or the little ball bearing things in there, seem to work better as they embed themselves in the metal. So there you go. That's how to clean one, how to put it back, and there you go. It's good to go again, and I hope that helps, and we'll talk to you later.